After a long pre-season of planning, reviews and speculation as to whether we would see a round 1 due to the coronavirus outbreak, it is finally time to recap my round 1 performance. Before we begin, I should mention the elephant in the room. The AFL officially announced that the season has been suspended until May 31st, which means there won't be anything to provide content on for AFL Fantasy for the next few months. I would love to hear your suggestions in the comments as to what I should do in the meantime. For those who have subscribed, I would appreciate your patience as we wait for the season to recommence. And for those who are not yet subscribed, please show your support for the channel by subscribing. Now let's review the first round of the 2020 AFL season. To summarise, it was an underwhelming week for my team, particularly in defence. My number 1 defender, Jack Crisp, only managed 59 points, after almost going scoreless through the second, third and early fourth quarter. Brodie Smith picked up a minor injury, which limited his time on ground to 60%, which in effect resulted in an abysmal 35-point performance. Dan Houston posted a respectable 79 points against the Suns, which is the equivalent of approximately 99 points with 20-minute quarters. Houston was one of just 2 defenders that I am not upset with, the other being Sam Doherty, who was back to his best on Thursday, picking up 95 fantasy points. Dylan Robertson was disastrous as my 5th defender, finishing with just 20 points. Robertson started on fire, but had negative 3 points in the fourth quarter to finish with 8 disposals, 1 mark and no tackles. Fortunately, it is only up from here for the St Kilda veteran, so I won't consider any replacement for him. Finally, late entry into the side, Isaac Cumming only managed 36 points, to bring the total for the defence to 324, for an average of 54 points per player. Jack McRae fell 16 points short of 100 against the Pies, picking up 22 disposals in the process. It's not the score I was hoping for my number 1 midfielder, but at least it's 25 points higher than Josh Dunkley, who I gave great consideration to before round 1. Canelio's 2 goals and 19 touches was good enough for 74 points. Carlton skipper Patrick Cripps led my midfield with his 92 points, my only midfielder who scored in the 90s. If the quarters were at full length, Cripps would have had no problem going above 110, which many have predicted him to average this year. Tom Mitchell seems to still be finding his best, as he picked up just 82 in his return to AFL footy, still 20 points short of where I expected him to be with limited quarters. Gold Coast rookies Rowell and Anderson combined for 97, with Rowell leading the way with a fantastic 64-point effort. Tom Green was very underwhelming, with just 27 points from 6 touches. The positives to take away from Green's performance was that most of his touches came in the middle of the ground, which shows that his midfield role is still there. Finally, Marlon Pickett demonstrated his phenomenal value in the midfield with his 60 points against the Blues. Anyone who doesn't have Pickett has made a big mistake. If the season continues, Pickett will continue to make big money while providing scores worthy of being on the field. My 8 midfielders accumulated a total of 516 points, at an average of 64.5. My ruckmen were by far my best performers in the opening week, with my captain Grundy shouldering much of the load. Grundy was my only player to score above 100, with his 114 points against Tim English and the Dogs, resulting in a 228-point output from my captain. My second ruckman Sam Jacobs had a fantastic game, with 28 hitouts and 10 disposals on his way to 80 fantasy points, resulting in a total of 308 points from my 2 ruckmen. Most of my forwards were dreadful this week, with 4 scores in the 40s, and just 1 score over 70. Whitfield only managed 68 points after an electric first quarter. For his price, I would have liked 100 plus, so hopefully that'll happen in his games to come when the AFL season returns. Darcy McPherson failed to recapture his pre-season form with his 45 points against the Power. Andy Brayshaw was infuriating to watch, as he only managed 44 points. Despite playing on ball for the majority of the game, Brayshaw could not find the footy or finish in front of goal. Hopefully his fortune changes in the following games, and he can pick up his scores beyond the 80s. Brett Bewley was brilliant on his way to 89, and was the only person in the forward line that I am pleased with. Schultz was below par in his 45-point display against the Bombers. Finally, Curtis Taylor picked up his performance late in the game after being a ghost in the first half to finish with 47. If Taylor can put together 4 quarters of his best footy, he could easily average above 80 this year. My 6 forwards finished with a total of 338 points, for an average of 56.3, making the forwards the second worst performing position in the side, behind the defenders. Sam Naismith and Jared Brander deserve mentions, despite being on my bench. If I had all of my top scoring players on field, I would have scored 1,546. But there is no point reflecting on what could have been, so after round 1, my score of 1,486 puts me at 25,293rd overall. And unfortunately, that's where I will sit for the next few months, while we wait for the season to hopefully get up and running again. Be sure to comment your rank and score in the comments below. And of course, if you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments too. And as I said before, with the AFL season being suspended for a while, what would you like to see from me while there is nothing fantasy related to post about?